All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today on this Super Bowl Sunday. So the first story that I've got for you guys today, the latest physique update from Terrence Ruffin, a.k.a. Ruff Diesel, at about 3 weeks out from the 2022 Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio. So I've been very impressed by Terrence lately, and I'll tell you guys why. If you guys remember last year, when Terrence was a few weeks out, I forget how many weeks it was, if it was 5, 6, 4, whatever it was, when Terrence dropped that first physique update, and we were talking about, the conversation became how quickly can Terrence turn things around before the show, because a lot of people, including myself, felt like he looked off. And he was able to pretty rapidly transform his physique to the point where he won last year's Arnold Classic, and he was still runner-up at the Olympia. This time around, at weeks away from the competition, Terrence looks almost ahead of schedule. And I think he looks miles ahead of where he looked at weeks out from last year's Arnold Classic. So I want to make sure we point that out, that this time around, he looks better than last time, but last time he still won. So what does that mean for this competition? Well, for one, look at his quads. I remember one thing that we were talking about in the physique update last year, that the quad separation didn't look as good in those updates last year, didn't look as deep as, some of the updates we were seeing from Chris at the same time, but Chris wasn't doing the Arnold, so he was further out than Terrence from the stage. But Chris had this crazy deep separation in his quads already, Chris Bumstead. In this update, at a few weeks out from the Arnold, crazy separation, crazy detail in his legs. He looks insane. So we really got to give props where props are due, because I think Terrence is going to demolish this show. And he even says in his caption of this update that he feels more tired during this prep, or he hasn't felt this tired during a prep since 2018. So that could be also evidence that he might be working even harder than he's ever worked for this prep. And that's why he looks so far ahead of schedule compared to last year. And I'm confident that we're going to see maybe the best version of Terrence that we've seen up until this point at the Arnold Classic. He's got to be hungrier than ever. 2 years in a row, runner-up at the Olympia. Arnold Classic champion. He's got Breon in this lineup, who he's beaten at both the past 2 years Olympia. So Breon has been third back-to-back behind Terrence 2 years in a row. So history would suggest that history will repeat itself or triple itself, and Terrence would beat Breon here. But let's look at Breon's latest physique update, this posing video, because one of the things that both Breon and Terrence are really good at is displaying their physiques. Terrence, I would argue, is a better poser than Breon, but Breon is certainly no slouch. These guys know how to pose to their strength. They know how to pose to classic physique. They know how to show the physique in a way like they would have 40 years ago in the 70s. But they also know how to do that and do it to the strengths of their physique. And I think everything that we've seen from Breon up until this point suggests that he is planning on giving Terrence a run for his money. And to the point where we've talked about guys like Ramon Dino, guys like Urs Kalsinski, 4th and 5th at the Olympia respectively. But the more that I see from Breon, the more that I think this is going to be between Breon and Terrence. I still think Ramon could be in that conversation, the top 3 conversation. But Breon is still a former Mr. Olympia. Breon is the only other Arnold Classic title holder in that lineup besides Terrence Ruffin. On paper, he's really the best bodybuilder in that lineup off of accolades alone. Terrence recently has beaten him back-to-back, like I said. But there's only one Mr. Olympia in this classic physique lineup, and that is Breon Ansley. So for a guy like Ramon Dino or a guy like Urs to come in and beat Breon, I would think that Breon would have to be tremendously off. But judging by the updates that we've seen from Breon, I don't think that's going to be the case. So if Breon is on, I think they're going to have a hard time beating him. Now, that being said, I don't think Terrence will have a hard time beating him because Terrence has already beaten him twice. Now, next up in the news, I want to talk about this upcoming show. It's like a week after the Arnold, the Boston Pro Show. And I think this is going to shape up to be a pretty cool show because of its proximity to the Arnold. All these guys, these top guys, they're already going to be in shape. And there's a big prize at this Boston Pro Show. They're giving away a truck. So this is the current, list of competitors they've got. I guess this is like the tentative list. Steve Kuklo, Justin Rodriguez, Regan Grimes, Douglas Frucci, Phil Klahar, who was second to Ian Valier at the Tampa Pro, Nathan Spear, who recently earned his pro card, Islam Muhammad, and I think that's 7 guys. But I have a strong feeling that almost everybody doing the Arnold, I mean, Boston proximity, from a time standpoint, really close, being a week away, but also it's not that far away from Ohio. These guys are already in shape. These guys want that Olympia qualification. So anybody that doesn't win the Arnold is going to be looking for more points or potentially a win to get to the Olympia stage. I think that Boston Pro lineup is going to fill up pretty quickly with most of the top guys from the Arnold Classic. I mean, there's really no reason not to. With the prize money that's at stake there, the Olympia qualification, the points that are up for grabs, I think a lot of people are going to be looking to secure that early qualification so they don't have to worry about it later in the season, and they can focus on getting ready for only the Olympia for the duration of 2022. So just something to keep an eye on. I know that a lot of focus right now is on the Arnold, but some of the shows that follow I think are going to shape up to be some pretty impressive lineups. Now, next up in the news, another Brandon Curry physique update. So this, he says, comes from the same day that video that we looked at recently, that posing video, came from. And he says it was from this year's Arnold Classic prep. He posted a couple other physique updates and posing videos over the past couple days that he did clarify were not from this year's Arnold Classic prep. But he says this picture was. So this is a little bit of a better angle, or not a better angle, but a better clarity, I guess, of how he was looking in that video. And I think it kind of reaffirms the point that I made in the video where we were talking about the posing video. His legs, to me, look bigger, specifically his quads. To me, they don't look like a weak point in these updates. The legs have kind of been, almost a famous weak point for Brandon that I think he's brought up so tremendously over the years, to the point where he did win an Olympia title. He's won the Arnold Classic, but he's won an Olympia title. And I just say that to say, I still see people in the comments talking about Brandon's legs. I think people forget, they were good enough to win the Olympia. I think they would be good enough to win the Arnold Classic. I still see it to this day in the comment section. No legs Brandon. How's he going to win the Arnold? I don't understand it. I don't think his legs are bad. They're probably, out of all his body parts, they're probably not the strongest. But they're not bad. And to me, in this picture, they look almost perfectly proportioned with his upper body. And again, we don't know exactly what time frame this was taken during this year's prep for the Arnold, but we know it was from some point in the prep. But let me know what you guys think. What's your opinion on Brandon's legs? Do you think he is going to win the Arnold Classic? I personally think both the guys that we talked about in this video, Brandon and Terrence, are both going to win their categories, Classic Physique and Men's Open. And I think it's a tough sell to argue otherwise. Now, the final story that I've got for you guys today, I really liked this update. This is really, I guess you could say, from closer to 4 weeks out. Side chests from Regan Grimes on the left, Justin Rodriguez in the center, and Samson Dauda on the right. So I thought this was an interesting kind of comparison because they're all under different lighting. They all have very different physiques, and they all look to be relatively different in this pose and different from the standpoint of different strengths. And I would say, to me, it looks like Justin Rodriguez out of these three is the furthest along from a conditioning standpoint. And we've been saying that almost every update that we've seen from Justin. Justin, I really think, is going to impress and surprise a lot of people at this show. He is, everything that I've seen from him suggests that this is going to be the best version of Justin that we've seen. And you see him compared to Regan and Samson. They're two guys that I think are going to do well in this lineup. But Justin, again, he took 4th at last year's Arnold Classic, 8th at the Olympia. I think he's going to shock a lot of people. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Who looks the best in these 3 side chests? Justin, Regan, or Samson? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you did in fact enjoy it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet already. And let me know in the comments down below who's going to win the Super Bowl today, the Bengals or the Rams. Let me know in the comments. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. Actually, I wanted to go ahead and make an addition to this video because as I was recording this, in addition to the Brandon Curry story that we just talked about, Brandon just posted another physique update minutes ago and confirmed that it is from this year's prep. Now, he's not showing his legs in this update, but it is confirmed to be recent. It is a lot better quality, I think, than the screenshots from the videos. And it's in a straight-on shot, so it's not taken down. Obviously, the video and the picture were taken from like an angle of someone standing at the bottom of the stairs. Obviously, Brandon was at the top. You get a much better idea of the clarity of how Brandon is looking here. So just wanted to add this to the video, another current update from Brandon Curry. Let me know what you guys think. Comment section down below. Again, Like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. As always, love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.